הרב משה אנגל הינו משלוחי חב"ד בלונג ביץ', קליפורניה. בשנת 1970 נסע ללוס אנג'לס בכדי להשתתף בהתוועדות עם רבי מנדל פוטרפס, המשפיע החסידי הנודע.
So Reb Mendel started talking, you guys should build a mikveh, you guys should have a mikveh. And this was literally the furthest thing from our mind. We talked about, because there were 2 or 3 women in the whole city, 3 women that used the mikveh. There was hardly anyone that kept kosher in the city. We would dream of opening a kosher store, how to get people into our school. The mikveh was like far from our agenda at that point, anyway. So Reb Mendel Futterfass spoke to us about it. Anyway, Mrs. Pekarsky, who was Rabbi Pekarsky was the first shlich in Long Beach, she wrote about this for Bring, and somehow she would write to her mother, or she told her mother about it. Her mother was the head of Neshei Chabad for out-of-towners at that time. Her name is Mrs. Popak. So she would write regular reports into the Rebbe. And somehow she wrote, part of her report was that in Long Beach they don't have a mikveh, or Rabbi Mendel Futterfass was talking to him about making a mikveh. Anyway, all of a sudden we get a call from Rabbi Yom Klein, one of the Rebbe's secretaries, and the call was that the Rebbe has answered, since the mikveh in Long Beach is so important, I am sending a check, special delivery airmail of $1,000 for this project. We didn't know what this was about. We didn't say what the mikveh in Long Beach is. We didn't know that Chani Pekarsky had written to her mother, and her mother wrote into the Rebbe. And then the next day, he calls again with the exact same answer. He said, since the mikveh, the Rebbe answered. So we said to him, I think it was Rabbi Pekarsky said to him, I'm not sure, you called yesterday, you told us this exactly. He said, I know, but when I went in to report this to the Rebbe's answer was, this should not be told to the Rabbi, it should be told to the Rebbetzin. So he called back to tell this answer to Mrs. Pekarsky. Okay, so that itself was a statement in itself, the role of the mikveh and the role of the woman, and the Rebbe wanted the woman to know that, okay. So we started thinking how, what, money, we started thinking, but we were just in the middle of talking about it. And then came Yud Aleph Nissen. So on Yud Aleph Nissen, the Rebbe spoke about building new institutions. We're talking about a mikveh. So we asked ourselves, maybe that should be our new institution. The Rebbe is demanding 71 new institutions. But we have no one to go to for money. Okay, the Rebbe is going to give 10%, but there's no one Orthodox, no one that appreciates mikveh in the whole city. Where do we go? So we decided we're going to Rebbe Erlweiss. And his answer to us was that if the Rebbe accepts this as one of the 71 institutions, I will pay the mortgage on the building that you buy. We built a mikveh, not knowing why and for who. But one thing we set ourselves to do. If we're going to build a mikveh and we're going to attract women from the Long Beach area and surrounding area, the mikveh has to be beautiful. And this was in an era where mikvehs were not beautiful. We brought in consultants and we built up a beautiful mikveh. So much so, just to give you an idea, that we had an open house after the mikveh opened. And at the open house, a lady who is now a frum lady, her husband sits and learns Torah all day in Israel, but at that time they were not frum at all. They were not observant at all. And she decided to come to the open house. And she wrote a letter to the Jewish newspaper. I walked into this open house, the mikveh. There were 140 people. I couldn't believe it. Nobody's interested in it. 140 people. It looked like a spa. They explained what mikveh was all about. It's such a beautiful idea. And she challenged the Jewish community to go and see the mikveh. That's the impression I had. Okay. When we heard that and we saw what it caused in the community, we decided we have to start with lecture series on mikveh. And we started with lectures on the mikveh. That was number one. Then we decided we have to go, and the Rebbe said the mikveh in Long Beach is so important. We have to go on a campaign that every mikveh committee in America has to beautify their mikvehs. We send out a package to all over America, probably to 300 mikvehs. And it said how to do it, how we did it, how we're going around publicizing it. We started getting calls and letters from everywhere you can dream of, from Satmar and Williamsburg to a little hick town in Ohio. We got letters. How do you do it? How do you go about it? And we responded to every letter by a phone call, and we started building up the concept, we've got to build beautiful mikvahs. Then we realized why the Rebbe saw that the mikveh in Long Beach was so important. It literally created a revival of mikvahs throughout America.